I went to the mall today. I was feeling a little down, a little sad. For some reason, malls make me happier. I don't know why. Yeesh. Malls just tend to make me happier, and I don't know exactly why. It might speak to my love of 90s pop culture that the mall is my safe space. But whenever I'm there, I have to get that good, and by good I mean like not really probably great, that Chinese food at the mall. You know what I'm talking about? That mall Chinese food that tastes so unique. I'm not saying it tastes bad, it's just you'll never have food that tastes like it anywhere else. It's remarkably unique to the mall experience. But went there and I had to get that tea from the Chinese place as well. Um, wow, this is completely irrelevant. Okay, can't hardly wait. It's a movie I definitely grew up with. I was annoying myself watching it this time, as I found myself able to basically say every single line of the movie. I know this film really, 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 really well. I watched it a lot. And when I mean like in my youth or as a kid, I honestly mean that. I watched this when it came out. I watched it when I was 8 or 9 years old, over and over and over again. I remember, and this is terribly embarrassing, um, fourth grade. It was fourth grade. So yeah, I'm not exaggerating at all. I really was a fucking child. But the character Preston really spoke to me. And I had a crush on a gal in class named Emily. And I'm like, no, 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 Preston's right. Preston's right. This is fate. Gotta tell her I've had a crush on her forever. We belong together. And mind you, I'm like fucking 10. And I went and got her flowers, wrote her a letter anonymously. Um, it's such an embarrassing moment because when she found out it was me, she was very let down, which is great. That's a great introduction to to young love. Um, rejection after some sort of grand declaration. That's great. That's fun. That's fun for me. Explains a lot, probably. But I really did love this movie, and I loved all of the characters in it a lot. I just mentioned Preston, Ethan Embry was so good here. Was excellent here. Jennifer Love Hewitt as Amanda proves that she is made of the magical stuff of 90s film dream girl, of 90s pop culture pinup, of postmodern pinup. Because that's what's curious about these 90s films. Postmodernism, starting with like Scream in 96, for a good 4 to 5 years, postmodernism was the slogan, was a corporate slogan almost. It was the dominating philosophy. And it's hard to think of outside of religion a time where a philosophy became the corporate language, the studio language, because once Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven, once they hit the world with Scream, once they set off that atomic bomb of brilliance. I love Scream; it's one of my favorite films. But once Scream was let loose on the public, on a media obsessed and secretly violent public. Um, Postmodernism crept its way into everything, and by crept I mean it fully forced itself into most every film and television show made during that time period. And Can't Hardly Wait is no different, but and, everything had a postmodern attitude, a postmodern bent. Everything did. From video games, with your Metal Gear Solids, to music with Sonic Youth actually going mainstream. and also hip hop, which is probably the most postmodern example of popular music ever. Um, Also with books, like Bret Easton Ellis, Chuck Palahniuk, and I'm talking these like populist, these extremely accessible, almost trendy kinds of figures who are espousing a sort of postmodernism through their work. So can't hardly wait. This studio film, which is wonderfully directed by Deborah Kaplan and Harry Elfont. There really is a great amount of rhythm to this film. It never stops, it never betrays its kind of it's a hyperkinetic rhythm, but it's never nauseating, it's never exhaustive. It's just you're at a party and you're looking in on each different room and just seeing what kind of hijinks are going on in each one. Um, it's wonderfully put together by Deborah Kaplan. I think it's a wonderfully photographed, structured, and written film. It was made in the late 90s, so of course you'll have homophobia, you'll have racism, you'll have some kind of latent sexism. You'll have a lot of that because it's 1998 and things were different then. I'm sure the teen films that defined today's youth will one day be viewed in quite the same way. It doesn't affect my viewing of it at all. In fact, some of those moments make for the greatest laughs in the whole movie. Seth Green's character, Kenny Fisher, Seth Green is a fucking national treasure. Hilarious in this film as an archetype that lived and thrived from 1997 to 2002 and then was never heard from again. Somehow they killed that archetype forever. It's an archetype that's so problematic I can't actually provide you what the name was, like what the name of that archetype was, but it was everywhere. Um, the music of Eminem was really popping off, and Seth Green did so well here. The chemistry that Seth Green and Lauren Ambrose have is incredible. Lauren Ambrose is probably the most likable, best character in the film. She plays Denise, misanthropic, insecure, reserved, like alternative she's the most punk rock out of any character here. I found her chemistry with Seth Green to be really touching, really, really lovely, but nothing really beats Preston. And the idea that postmodernism has to do a certain thing. Postmodernism is a post-God concept. It's a post-spirituality concept. God does not enter into any truly postmodern film because God is a non-issue. God is not to be worried about within postmodernism because he had been dead. Nietzsche fucking killed him. Like he'd been dead for a long time. But that means other concepts as well, supernatural kinds of concepts, things that you can't necessarily explain, things like destiny and fate. Postmodernism isn't devoted at all to the romantic concept of fate, which makes postmodernism seem somewhat insincere to people watching it. But that's because they've been so in their entire worldview has been informed by Hollywood happy endings and by fairy tales, by fantasy. Can't Hardly Wait believes in fate, but it provides an antidote to postmodernism in the most truthfully postmodern way possible. The most important scene in this film, a handful of them that Ethan Embry, that Preston has with Jenna Elfman, who plays a stripper dressed as an angel, who gives Preston advice about fate, about fate can only get you so far, then it's up to you to make it happen. Um, which I think is flaming that belief belief is still possible within postmodernism. She even likens she's under the impression that Preston is in love with Barry Manilow because he was trying to call a radio station to see if the song Mandy was truly about a dog or if it was about a woman because he invested so much of his own emotional worth, his love of Amanda Beckett, into the song Mandy and the idea that it was playing and must have been fate and destiny. Um, so he gets very upset when she forcibly discontinues the call on the payphone so she can call a cab. Um, and so she just assumes that, oh, he's in love with Barry Manilow. But she likens the situation, since it is Barry Manilow, with a crush that her character had on Scott Baio, and how he went on a mall tour and came to Huntington Mall, to their mall, and he got out of the cab and he looked perfect, and she couldn't say anything. And it's something that she's not only regretted but resented. Fate can only get you so far, then it's up to you to make it happen. But what is fate in this anecdote? What is fate in this fable, in this postmodern fable that we have as the centerpiece of the film? It's a cinematic one, since she is talking about a crush that she had on a figure she saw in film and television. It is a cinematic crush, right? One of the tenets of postmodernism, the society of the spectacle, the Guy Debord idea that our lives are becoming indistinguishable from the fictive ones that we showcase and that we view, that we watch. In fact, engaging with art is creating a new kind of experience where it informs your waking life and your actual life, and vice versa. So she is directly talking about a cinematic crush that she had, a crush on celluloid, a crush on a dream, on the fantasy, since film is always fantastical. No matter what you do, things change when you observe it. I mean, when you add a narrative to something you are observing, you create pure fantasy. When you develop a crush, like the viewer would when they're watching this film on Jennifer Love Hewitt, the crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt becomes fantasy. It becomes heightened philosophy. It becomes faded. But if you can take that postmodern lesson, which sounds at least lightly nihilistic, because it is, if you take the lesson of that fable and apply it to your actual life, you can have that sort of Hollywood happy ending. You can have the happy ending that Pretty in Pink promised you. So this is definitely a film that is in the same league, in the same sort of compositional category as a great John Hughes film. If you take the fable of postmodernism and apply it to something as fantastical as young love, and in fact, the unreality of love makes young love so important, so special. You need to give into the fate of it. Things can become fated. If postmodernism claims that you are taught attraction, that you are even taught some hatred or camaraderie, like all sorts of things through the spectacle, through viewing it, through being showcased it, through watching it, through cinema, then we must also believe that if we can pull those things out of the film, if those things inform our actual lives, and those things are the products of fantasy, then fate, destiny, must also be able to must also be applicable to our lives. If we can pull out these seemingly negative ideas from film, if seemingly negative connotations of cinema and of media can inform our lives for better or for worse, then fantastical ones must as well. Fate must also be real in the most unrealistic way possible, in the way of film. And film, cinema, fantasy can only get you so far, then it's up to you to make it happen. I think Can't Hardly Wait is hilarious. I think it's a very good film. I think it's a touching movie. It's a who's who of 90s everybody's. Everybody was in this film. I probably talked about every actor, every actor in this film in a different movie at some point on this channel. It's just full of so many people I've talked about, which makes for some interesting engagements. I used to really like the show 6 Feet Under. Lauren Ambrose and Eric Balfour's character, they were lovers on that show, and they have an interaction here where Eric Balfour is playing like a hippie guy, and Lauren Ambrose gets a brownie thrown at her face, and he goes up and like licks it. And I'm like, wow, what an interesting connection here. But you have Buffy alum, you have Scream alum, you have Cruel Intentions alum, you have everybody in this movie. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy how many people, the casting directors, must have been exhausted, or everybody must have wanted to be part of this fucking movie. Every person who was in 90s movies, every person who was in my favorite movies wanted to be in this movie in some capacity. I think it's great. I think it's great, and I think that 90s teen movies are truly postmodern exercises. And this is the most optimistic postmodern exercise that was probably ever accomplished. I like to cover horror. I like to cover Dawson's Creek and Buffy and TV. Can't Hardly Wait is the one that says that fate is real. Can't Hardly Wait is the one that says destiny is both real and unreal. It gets you to a point, but then you must follow through on it on your own. Can't Hardly Wait is the film that tells you everything is both written and unwritten. And in a large way, that's a massive postmodern statement. I think it earns its place in the catalog of postmodern teen and horror films. It's a great movie, and I'm glad I got to talk about it. Like I said, I was obsessed with this movie for such a long time when I was so very, very, very young. It's a pleasure that I got to cover it on the channel. Everybody, Charlie Corsmo, Peter Fasinelli, Seth Green, Ethan Embry, Jennifer Love Hewitt, my love. I told myself before I did this video I would not name anyone other than the main characters because I would absolutely be here all day. There are so many people in this film. And I already named Eric Balfour earlier. I already fucking failed. I hope you liked this video. I'm your cult boyfriend. I might be a little scatterbrained right now, but I think I provided some decent food for thought when revisiting this movie. It's not a movie that demands an exhaustive amount of engagement from an audience. It just requests your time. It's an invitation to a party. Go to the party. Have fun. It's a blur. It's a whirlwind of Blink-182 and Third Eye Blind. Have fun with this movie. And have fun with your life. Peace, guys.